Hello, all you lovely people out there. It's Lisa Jane here, and this is my weekly video. This is my offering to you all, hoping that it will help in some way in your journey. Today is Wednesday, the 17th of April, and it is a beautiful sunny day in Cape Town. We're heading into autumn, so the days are getting a bit chillier. I hope that you find something of benefit in what I'm going to talk about. And each time I tune in, before I offer the videos, I ask for guidance in terms of what is the topic that Source would like me to share with you today. Since, as always, I'm tuning into my higher self and into Source for the highest form of wisdom and guidance in order to offer the information. What came to me, and in fact it came to me a couple of days ago, is something that I'm really passionate about, and that is the whole concept of conscious relationships. Now, we will know from our discussions, and if anyone has kind of chatted to me in person, that we are moving towards a higher way of being as humans. It is my belief that our evolution is happening by way of really getting in touch with our higher state or our consciousness that is connected to the universal consciousness or 0-point field or source, whatever it is you want to name it, and that we are connected to one another. So we're in a place where there is a lot of change happening, right? There's a lot of transitions, there's a lot of transformation. And I would be very surprised if not one of you have not been experiencing this at present, if not recently in the past 6 to 9 months, or are going through the middle of a major change or transformation. Things are changing very rapidly, and while nature handles change very easily, smoothly, and coherently in terms of death and rebirth and that continual cycle, us humans don't do that so well. First of all, there may be a major fear of death in itself, and that fear is linked to death of all kinds of things. Not necessarily a death in the physical sense, but a death of the self as you knew it, the death of a relationship that you might have had, the death of a marriage, of a job, of a connection to a property. These are all opportunities that are being offered to us at this present time to actually step into a rebirth of sorts. So the one thing that I'm going to be talking on today in terms of this overall planetary transformation change that we're all moving through is that the area that is being or can be affected for some people is the area of their relationships. Now, most of you will have heard about codependency and codependent relationships. And it is my view that not only are we evolving and awakening in a whole lot of areas, the relationship area is one in which we are really, really being asked to drop old patterns of behavior. The dynamic that plays out in a lot of relationships is should, you will, you have to. If you don't do this, you don't love me. If I don't do this, then it means that you've done something wrong. And there's a continual game of you do this, then I'll do that. Or if you don't do this, then I won't do that. And this power play of, tit for tat, backwards and forwards, all revolves around the idea and the concept that if you're with someone in a partnership, whatever that partnership looks like, is that they are there for you. Not so. We need to move to a place where we realize that as much as we might be cohabiting, we might be dating, we might be married, we might be in partnership with someone, we do not and never will own that person. We do not and never will actually have complete control of that other person. Even if we've written on that little piece of paper and there's a contractual, that does not necessarily have to play out in that way. No document, no commitment, no ring on the finger can ever be a complete commitment to one person. And whilst that might shake fear in your boots, it's meant to, because we cannot be in love and fear. And that is playing itself all over the world, and we need to choose love and not fear. So if we're in a relationship where we feel that the other person is responsible for our happiness, is responsible for our well-being, and needs to be there to make sure that we're okay, then we're going to find that it's going to be shaken up a little bit, especially as we move into high levels of consciousness. So my thoughts around relationships is something that I kind of picked up in a very good book I read once, which, not everyone is a fan of Osho, but this particular book called Love Alone is Freedom offered very pertinent messages around how there is a certain fear based in loneliness, that if you are not with someone, you have a fear of never finding someone. And in not having someone, there is this feeling of being lonely. When in actual fact, if we're seeking out or searching someone to bring into our lives to make us feel less lonely, it's not going to work out. Because we have to be comfortable in our aloneness. Right? And being in our aloneness is not the same as being lonely. And I'm having a whole lot of tongue-tie problems today, it seems. So I have to excuse that. But essentially, in a conscious relatingship, because a relatingship indicates more movement and more growth than a relationship that kind of puts things in a box, is that we relate to one another in such a way that we do not and will not tramp on the other person's freedom of choice or will. What that means is, if that person who is with you, inverted commas, feels like they may need space, feels like they might want to go on holiday on their own, we need to allow them this. Because they have their own life. We cannot own anybody else's life. In the same way that we are also entitled to some space. So a conscious relationship then looks at the other person in their entirety as a whole person standing next to us in our entirety. So there's no leaning on one or the other, and there's no depending on the other to satisfy all of your needs, because no one person ever can. It doesn't matter how deeply they love you. So in a conscious relationship, we are in presence with ourselves and with our center. And we are always aware of what emotional triggers we have, because those two are emotional triggers that we own. It's never the other person that is causing us to feel frustrated, resentful. It might seem like they are doing things that cause us to feel that, but yet within us we have a button that is being pressed that is causing us to be frustrated. So there is some sense of us that is at ill ease. And if we can take the step to really look at those triggers or our emotional responses to something another person is doing in a consciously aware state, and really to own them and not name, blame, shame the other person, then we are really moving to a place of higher consciousness. We are moving to a place of being aware of who we are as energetic beings. And if we can work with that in a way that is positive and uplifting to ourselves and to the partner, in a way that doesn't squash the freedom of another or make them feel entirely dependent for our happiness or for our security or anything like that, then we can actually move to a place where we will expand in love and actually have a very deeper, more intimate connection with that other person. This goes against all societal norms, I suppose, of what people accept within relationships. But sometimes I look outside at people who may have been in a relationship for a long time or seemingly get along, but the way they speak to one another and the tone they use is actually sometimes quite demeaning and quite condescending, and really doesn't respect where that other person is coming from. And what we need to do in that instance is actually step back a bit. If we have been in a relationship for 5, 10, 15 years, we may well be looking at that person with all of their so-called faults, irritations, frustrations. You always do that. It irritates me. Why do you do it again? But in actual fact, we can let go of our irritation. We can say, actually, you know what? From today on, I'm going to choose as if I've only just met you from this moment. And I'm going to drop all of those ideas, those beliefs, those kind of, negative attitudes towards who you are and as a person. and just meet you today for the first time. It will allow for a more expansive view of yourself, of your interaction with others, and for that communion or partnership you have with that significant other. It doesn't have to be in a marital or a dating relationship. It can be mother-daughter, father-son. It can be siblings. Anytime you are relating with someone, we are being asked to move to a more conscious way of doing that and to really own our own triggers, our own insecurities, our own misconceptions or kind of expectations too of what that other person needs to provide us. So that's kind of what I'm going to offer you today. I hope in some way it makes sense, and that you can take from that actually what you need to step towards perhaps is just being mindfully aware, just being conscious of when you're interacting or feel your triggers being pushed, that you either take a deep breath and step backwards, walk away if you have to, and really just contemplate what it is within you that is at ill ease, that is being triggered by this information, connection, discussion with the other person. So I hope that helps, because conscious relationships is a new way of being. It is part of moving to the new human. It is part of being connected to a higher aspect of ourselves and everything around us. What I thought I'd finish with today is I created, and I'm just looking at the time to see how long my video is. I created a pack of cards, actually. You can see there, a new humanity. There are a deck of 52 cards, weekly guidance cards that have been going very well, and they are selling in a very special little gift store in the Cape Quarter called Baraka Gifts. I will put the link below this video. But what I thought today is I'd see what card we get pulled. It's not like traditional oracle cards where you get an archangel or someone kind of telling you something and you need to infer from that. This is almost very direct guidance, and around the concept of stepping into a new humanity, stepping into a new human, where we are connected, kind, loving, supportive of one another. So I think I'm just going to do a little shuffle here and we see what comes out, and that will be the message for the day, and we trust that whatever comes out is what we need to hear. And I'm going to take from the top of the deck once I've shuffled. Okay, and I think I'm going to stop right there. So let's see what this one says. This is interesting. The one that came out today is rebellion. So this little card is actually about the fact that sometimes we don't step out of the box, right? We kind of have been grown up to be told that we must be the good girl or the good boy, or we need to fit in. And it's actually interesting that this one comes up in relationships, because sometimes a rebel is actually stepping out of the box, and sometimes a rebel is doing something that you don't normally do in the way that you do it. So what I'm actually going to challenge you today is to actually do what it says on the bottom of the card, and that is step out of the box, do something different, follow your heart, and rebel against others' expectations and ideas about who they think you are. Go be yourself. Go and be a rebel. With much love and blessings, and until next time, Lisa Jane. Bye.